Welcome to the Grid League podcast, where we tell the stories of the players and teams in the Florida Grid League. Hey everybody, I am here for another commissioner chat with Commissioner Mather Wiswall. We're going to go ahead and dive into the new talent that's in the league, in the Florida Grid League in the 2022 season. What's up, Commish? How you doing, man?
What's up, Nick? How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I'm rocking. I just got a great workout in. I did some thrusters, so you know that puts me in the worst mood possible. Let's do
it. All right, sounds good.
Right. So we're 3 months, 2 months, 2.5 months out of season starting now, right?
Yeah, about 2 months. Yeah,
we're getting to the end of the player signing period, right to the deadline. Most of the teams are pretty full now, right?
Yeah, most teams are, as far as I understand, most teams are entertaining like a player or two left, see if they want to add to the roster. But yeah, for the most part, the bulk has been realized for each team.
Yeah, that's the interesting part, right? I think in previous seasons it wasn't that way, and this year all of us are stacked pretty early.
Yeah, the percentage of complete teams, that meaning like full roster teams, is going to be much higher than average this year, and 100%. It seems like there's much less of a mad dash for talent grab this year at the end. So,
how many of those new players came from the grid trials, the online grid trials?
Good question. I'd say, if I had to guess, I'd say 40%.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to tell a little bit because the early teams jump on some of the talent that's signed up early on, and so they don't even necessarily enter many results into the grid trials. And therefore, I don't ever see them, and people don't see them. I think that it might have actually been the case for the Sharks on one of them, but
yeah, absolutely, that was for us. We grabbed the two strongest people that were in the trials early. So
yeah, and I think other teams had similar results in some cases. So it's hard to tell exactly, but if I had to guess, I'd say about 40%. And then obviously we have a lot of repeat signs in the league. That's probably another, probably 50 or plus %. So there's only a few handful, maybe 10, 15% that are, existing relationships. Actually, I would say 40% of the new talent in the league. So outside of re-signs. And therefore, the other 50, 60% of new talent in the league is existing relationships in some capacity, either through players or team owners.
And yeah, so that's the ways you get into the league, right? You try out for the trials, you do the online trials. Mm-hmm. You happen to just meet a player or a team owner or be training in a gym with one of them, right? Or you see something pretty cool on social media.
Yeah, I mean, the normal process is either somebody in the league in some capacity and you get connected that way, or you see it on social media and you don't have a strong connection with somebody, and therefore you generally will go in the trials and kind of show your talent compared to everyone else that way. So those are the two primary ways, by and large, for sure.
Yeah, this is the first year that we've had, as the owner of the Sharks, so we've had a significant amount of people reach out to us about playing versus the other way around, which has been pretty damn cool.
Yeah, that's great. See, I don't always hear that, so that's good to hear. That's always makes your job easier, which we want to shoot for if we can.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we got 8 teams in the league, right? We're a ton of new players coming in. What's some of the buzz you heard from the different teams about the quality of talent?
It seems like the trend, and just to like frame this a little bit, because from a commissioner's perspective, I'm usually kind of drowning in the details and I'll get a chance to think about like how it's going to look from a team versus a team perspective. So this is more like what I know from a commissioner perspective, but looking at it from kind of a fan perspective, because I am a fan of the sport, you know what I mean? So I would say the biggest trend I've seen of talent influx, and you've probably seen some of this too, because all the team owners have visibility to who other people have signed and everything, but is just general strength of the team, as well as it seems like even more on the male side. So the males have really stepped up in strength. We've got more 300-pound snatches in the league than we've ever had by probably double. if not more than that. So, which is really cool and exciting. But yeah, that's like the big thing that jumps out to me when you talk about like league wide.
Yeah, I've noticed that, especially watching some of the other teams' announcements. You know, for anyone listening who's not fully informed, right? We have like strength specialists, body weight specialists, and utility players, and those are our primary like positions, right? And then people are broken down into even more specification past that. Like some people are better at barbell movements or power movements or squat movements. And then in the gymnastics, some people are better at hanging gymnastics or upside down stuff, right? Like we have so much specification, but we generally break them down into those three, right? And you're saying strength has gone up, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that jumps out to me. And it could just because it's one of those easily quantifiable things. Like it's really hard to identify verbally a crushing utility player, like a utility player that's going to be a game changer, just because they don't have the highest strength numbers and they don't have the, highest skill gymnastics, but they're one of those people when they show up on the grid can completely influence a match one way or the other. But at this stage in the game, it's really hard to identify compared to somebody coming into the league that's got a 355-pound snatch that we've never seen before. That's easier to say, hey, that's a big improvement in that category. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny you say that because I think that's kind of like the plight of the good utility player, is like you can't not have them. Your team is not good without those,
100%.
But by the very nature of their like specialization or lack of specialization, they almost don't get as much shine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the opposition to that would be is that they're everywhere. There's always a clip of them doing something, but it's not usually one of those things where everybody's like, oh my God, because, they don't have the highest level of talent within that specific movement that they're performing that exists in the league. And therefore those clips tend to get pulled out from that. Those are generally specialists, but you will see some utility players that can do both. And those are obviously the biggest, I guess, gems in the league when it comes to like game changers on your team. Again, from my perspective, there's a lot of different ways you could think about this, but then most, good utility players are just soaking up a lot of reps and allowing your specialists to do what they do best,
Yeah. Can you think of any off the top of your head who kind of fit that bill that are in the league right now?
That are like that's
like top tier utility players who can definitely step in and maybe clean up high level gymnastics or high level weightlifting also.
Yeah. Definitely Rowan Scott. She can do a lot of high level movements as well as clear most ladders. And she's also small on the smaller side, which is a super big advantage because it's a lower range of motion and you can move through movements quicker. Heather Hudson is also in that category. Smaller player, can clear most ladders, can do back up rises. And so she has a wide range of capability, but can do a couple of those higher level movements. Briley as well. She's one of a few people that can do females that can do butterfly muscle ups, but can also clear a lot of ladders. Those are the ones that jump out to me. What about you? Can you think? Oh, on the male side, our MVP last year. RJ.
Yeah, I was gonna say can't leave out the MVP, RJ for sure, right? I mean, he's 100%. The one who sticks out to me the most, and that might just be because I'm a male competitor, right? I think of him as like the dude who can do pretty much everything about as well as it can be done, Yeah,
100%. I mean, very fairly won MVP for that very reason. And I think the thing that pushed him over the top of winning MVP was the clip of him doing 30 unbroken double touches, which I've never seen before, ever. And he also can clear all the ladders with ease and can move efficiently and effectively through everything. And even though Blake is also on the wild is more of in the strength side category, he's definitely a strength biased player. He definitely still has a pretty wide range and he's so effective on the strength side. But still, you can throw him in a handstand walk or, a set of toes to bar when you need him to, and he'll do them competitively.
Yeah. If you haven't listened to episode 1 of this podcast, yes, go back and listen to it. Cause we had Blake, the reigning strength specialist of the year, on the podcast, and he let out some secrets about some gymnastic stuff you might see him doing this year, which I'm not super happy about. but will make for some really good media. So,
Yeah.
Okay, well, cool. Yeah, like I think being a utility player can be really hard because you sometimes don't get the shiniest movements, you know. But I think you just like you can't have a good team without them. I learned that the hard way our first season. It's not possible, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can have the best specialists in the world, but if you don't have good utility players, you got no shot.
Exactly. So as that's harder to navigate, harder to discriminate with the newer players, have you noticed anyone who stood out so far from the teams where it's like that person might not have a 300-pound snatch or might not have 25 unbroken muscle ups, but you're like, that person is clearly an athlete. Anybody like that yet?
I can't tell that honestly from the only exposure I have is from grid trials and Instagram. And so quantifying a good utility player outside of a 15-second clip is really difficult to do. So I honestly don't know. All I can know, like all I can judge off of outside of those things is what coaches say. So, I've heard some really positive things about, Tampa's new utility players, Dalton and Courtney. He said they have wide ranges and move really well and have great range and enthusiasm. Courtney's more on the strength side. Dalton's more on the body weight side, but we're both utilities. Outside of that, when they hit the grid, in my mind, because like example, you and Taylor, the Venom have really, I've heard mostly about strength upgrades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Courtney Moss, a new player on the Tampa Bay Brigade. He was a hot commodity. I think everybody in the North was fighting over him. So,
okay,
boo on Tampa for grabbing him up.
Yeah, he did a lot of the trials, which is always a good sign. Like when you do a lot of different tests, you don't mind putting yourself out there and trying new things and not necessarily worry about whether or not it's your absolute best. So that's usually a good sign from a team player perspective, but also a range and adaptability and being able to pick movements up. So he was definitely one of those types of players. So that makes a lot of sense that he would be one of those good utility players.
Yeah, and if you're trying to get into the league this year, next year as a midseason signing or for the 2023 season, as a team owner, I can definitely say that's going to help you get there. Is doing more of the tests, making it easier for us as owners and coaches to see what you can and can't do and how you could fit into our team. That's way better than seeing a one clip of you doing one thing you're good at that you tried 46 times.
Yeah, and that also speaks a lot more to how you are outside of your physical ability. Because if you're going out there and doing a test, even if it's maybe not your best test, but you're showing the commitment to, proving that you can do something and show a wider range, it's more of a team mindset. It's more of a, throw me in wherever coach type application, than like you said, just doing your best strengths and showing that. Both have their place for sure, but 100% agree. And the other thing is reaching out to teams, being like, look, I really want to be on your team. I'm interested. Here's how I think about this. Here's why. That goes a long way to, helping identify the type of personality of the player and how they're going to fit on your team, rather than just seeing a clip of an amazing movement and then not having any idea of those aspects, which are, in my opinion, just as important as anything you can do physically, is how you communicate with the team. Do you have leadership capabilities? Do you jump in and do whatever, or are you real selective? That kind of thing,
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, so let's get to that strength, right? You said that the strength numbers have gone up quite a bit. Who are some big players that we should look out for this season?
So I don't have a ton. I'm not really good with the names yet, but I know the Venom, the Aces, the Sharks, and I think the Lions. Have all signed male players with 300+ pound snatches. So those are big strength upgrades. I think we might have had one or two last year with 300-pound snatch. But yeah, I mean, I should ask you, tell us about your strength guys on your team a little bit.
This episode is brought to you by Punch Gunk. Punch Gunk is a pain relief and anti-inflammatory rub You put it on your muscles, your joints. You're going to feel a whole lot better if you use it. I know that a couple weeks ago, my back was killing me from a deadlift workout. Couldn't bend over without strong discomfort. One of the players convinced me to use some, rubbed it on my back. About 15 minutes later, I was doing muscle ups and snatches with no pain at all. I absolutely could not believe it, but it's true. They're a supporter of the podcast now. If you want to try it out, go to punchgunk.com. Use code SHARKS10. You'll get a discount. This stuff is amazing. It's all over my gym now. The Southwest Florida Sharks and the Florida Grid League use it. Big supporter of it now. Check it out at punchgunk.com. Use code SHARKS10 for a discount. Yeah, on the Sharks, that's been our biggest weakness since we got into the league was just strength in general. So going on 5 seasons, we've just been unable to improve that. We've had Derek Anderson and John Falcon, and they were both incredibly strong dudes, but 2 strong dudes is not enough in this league. Maybe season 1. It's never been that way since then, though. And so this year, that was our entire recruiting strategy. Was like, we have the best gymnasts in the league. We're not worried about that. We're worried about being able to move some bars and mirror and ladder, which is something we've basically gone into every match for 5 years saying, like, we're taking 2 losses there. Yeah. And we said that will not be the case this year. So, we signed the strongest guy in the league. I'm certain of that. His name's Anthony. He lives up in New Jersey. He's got a 320 snatch and a 395 clean and jerk. And I just watched it. He sent me a video the other day of him failing 325 6 times in a row. And like, the reality that he can attempt a 325 6 times in a row is kind of insane. So I'm super, super excited to see him out there for ladders. But for us, our strength, the big one is we brought 2 of, I think, going to be the strongest people in the entire league in at the same time. We got Kristen Bonito on the girl side, and then Anthony Furman on the guy side. They're both competitive powerlifters competitive strongmen and strongwomen who also have Olympic weightlifting backgrounds. So they're the rare strongmen, strongwomen who can also snatch. And I've seen Anthony Furman muscle snatch 275. So, which is a thing that I don't believe was possible until I saw that video. So I'm excited to see like what our team can do strength wise. We have gone into every match for 5 years being like, the only way we're winning one of those is if the other team messes up, and this time I don't feel that way. And it's really exciting for that.
Yeah, that's great. I love having strong men and strong women in the team or in the league. Obviously, Julie Radar from the Wild has been a highly effective player, and that's her background. She can snatch. She has some Olympic lifting experience, but she's a strong woman, through and through, and highly effective player in the league. So I think that's a really fun component. It widens the range of movement types that you watch and enjoy. And some of the, most exciting ones are those distance movements, the farmer's carries, the yoke carries, which I think we'll probably introduce this year. Things like stone sandbags are always fun to watch. So yeah, I'm excited about the increase in strong men, strong women. And there's a lot of lifters in the league that are Olympic lifters or CrossFitters, stronger CrossFitters that also have some level of strongman experience. So they can be highly competitive at those movements. But obviously, Julie and Anthony, like you said, probably have focused a lot more on the strongman movements. So they might be a little bit less effective on some of the non-strong movements when things like, higher repetitions or a lot of mobility are involved. So.
Yeah, Anthony sent me a video the other day of him cleaning 300 pounds twice. And it was the ugliest shit I've ever seen in my life, but it looked really easy. So, I personally think that those are the possible 2 best players in the league. Not them, but the 2 best archetypes, right? Are the strong, like top tier strength players who can also move, right? And then gymnasts who can also Olympic lift. Right. I think those 2 archetypes for athletes are probably like the most important players a team could have. Can you think of any? Have we picked up any high level gymnasts this year?
There are on the female side. I don't know much about them, and I just know that they have gymnastics backgrounds. I know there's a couple guys too, but I haven't seen a lot of info about them, whether they're going to be competitive with like the Erics and the Quentins, and Briley's got the high level gymnastics experience. So it'll be interesting to see how they compare to those. But I know we have a couple. But Quentin's one of my favorite players to see clips about, just because he weighs 100 pounds and is one of those pure gymnasts that has complete body control over everything that he does and can move so quickly. So I hope we end up getting more players like him, because even though he'll never touch a barbell, watching him on the rings is just mind blowing.
Yeah, that's Quentin Ambrioso, and he's on our team. He's on the Sharks, and I'll tell you what, he really wants to touch a barbell. He tries so hard every match, and every match I have to fight with him, so he doesn't try to lift something 8 times his body weight.
Right.
Yeah.
And the debate comes down to, like, you have Eric, who's also a gymnast, and he will touch barbells. He's the first and second quadrant guy in partner forward, which it tends to be a lighter barbell and higher rep, which is super valuable, but he's a little bit longer and a little bit heavier than Quentin. So you match them up on the gymnastics movements, it's going to be a battle, and Quentin's going to win in some of them just because he has a shorter range of motion and less weight to throw around. Mm-hmm. So for that particular role, it's definitely interesting, because is it better to have Quentin and then a utility player who can play the role that Eric does in that position, or is it better to have Eric and then another utility player that maybe has some crossover, so you have options? And it comes to configuring your roster for the entirety of the match. But yeah, those are the debates that I love to have personally.
Yeah, and I think we have 2 people that I know about that are, I think, going to be very significant Rookie of the Year candidates this year, and they're both male, strong gymnasts, more of the Eric cut than the Quentin cut. Mm-hmm. One of them is a player on my team on the Sharks. His name is Shaquem Graham. I think nobody knows who he is yet. When you see his 46 abs and his backwards uprises, I think you're going to notice he's pretty good. He's not. He's okay. He has a standard CrossFit background, but at some point in his life, he decided gymnastics were the thing he liked doing the most. Mm-hmm. On top of having like a 350-pound clean. So I think that'll be a really interesting player. And I think also on the new team, hopefully it's safe to announce this right now, the Daytona Venom. They signed a player named Luke Thompson. I think we're going to hear a lot about him this year.
Okay.
I think he's another one of those very strong weightlifting gymnasts, and I think we're gonna hear he's more of like the Roe Scott cut, and I think we're gonna see some really interesting pieces come out of him this year.
Yeah, and I mean they signed Andres too from the Freaks.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, and Andres is he doesn't have a gymnastics background, but he is up there with Eric and Quentin when it comes to biggest sets. He can do all of the high level movements and speed as well. So he's in the discussion of one of the top male gymnastics players in the league. So they're going to be pretty stacked on male gymnastics for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think one other player to look out for too, another rookie that we should be paying attention to, new talent wise, is on the breakers, Renee Stapleton.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I think she's going to come in and maybe not get as much shine as a utility player as maybe as her value will show. But I think we're going to see a whole lot of clips of her, like you said, just soaking up reps, moving that team along,
Yeah. Breakers won in female strength acquisition through the trials for sure. They got the 2 strongest females in Vita and then Renee that came through the trials. So they definitely got an upgrade in female strength there. But yeah, I mean, we had one clip shown with Renee, and the other 2 players in the clip were Blake and Taylor. So it's pretty good company. She was a little bit slower, but still being in a clip with those 2 is speaks a lot to your capability, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, agreed. And I think it's really cool because these players are all brand new, right? None of them have played a match yet. So whatever their talent level is right now, this is the worst they'll ever be.
Right. Yeah.
Which is a little bit scary when you think of some of the numbers and some of the rep volumes. Like I remember when we were learning triple touches and there was 8 of us in the league who could do them,
Right. Yeah.
And now we have brand new players sending us videos of them hitting sets of 10, being like, am I good enough to be on the team?
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy thought to me. Crazy thought.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you generally speaking now, each team has 5, 6, maybe 7 options when it comes to double touches and triple touches. And that gives you the flexibility you need to put people in places where they can shine the best. Whereas before it was just like, who can do them? Okay, you do them. And now we got to build around that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, the race times have gone down significantly each year, but as strength increases, as gymnastics capability increases, and as the number of people who can do those higher level movements increases within each team, those numbers are going to keep going down, because you're going to have more options. You're going to have, people that are performing the movements do them more efficiently. And so, yeah, I'm super excited for that. I mean, and you see like teams that were tops in the league getting big upgrades in the things that they were already really good at, is like, part of what is like, I think this season is just wide open. Like we have no idea who's going to do well, personally. And because there's so much talent, it's not going to be who has the most talent. It's going to be who executes the best, who's the best team, who comes with the right headspace, who focuses on the right things as a team. It's not going to be, who can do butterfly muscle ups, or has a 300-pound snatch, because too many teams have that capability now. It's going to be who executes the best, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think that actually makes the season much more exciting this year. There have been times in the past, like specifically, I can think of the AS1 tournament, where we had kind of bolted together rosters, and a lot of the teams were there was a massive talent disparity, and then you think back to maybe year 1 or even a little bit of year 2, still just kind of massive talent disparities, right? And a lot of whether it was fair or not depended on like what talent did you pick up,
Yeah, definitely.
That is not the case now. There are no bad teams. There's no team that doesn't have 5 guys and 5 girls they can put out and be like wildly competitive right now.
100%. Yeah. I mean, the amount of races that get capped out, I think maybe we had 3 or 4 last year. I'd be surprised if we see more than like 1 or 2 this year, just because every team is more than capable. And that's without saying that, we may make adjustments on a league level, with all the teams deciding whether or not we should, as far as upping the weights or rep count. But regardless, every team is very, very capable. It's going to come down to execution.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's gonna be a great time. Anybody else you want to bring up for the season?
Yeah. So we've had, if anybody's familiar with the NPGL, it was a previous form of the league. We've had additions from the NPGL kind of trickle in over the years. This year is no different. So a couple of people that have been following a long time should know Jessica Phillips was a star player in the NPGL. She played for the Phoenix Rise. They won the championship in the last year. She signed with the Aces. That's a huge upgrade in female strength for the Aces, and they were doing all right with female strength prior to that.
Yeah, seriously. Way to go, Taylor. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and then the Wild signed 2 ex-NPGL athletes, one of which is a utility player, Braden, and he's going to be your rep-soaking guy. They were doing all right from a male utility player perspective as well already, so they just are on another level when it comes to male utility options, because they have an MVP, and that was his exact role. So that, and then they have Justin, who also played for the Fire. So he played with Eric but he is also signed with the Wild, and his wife Megan also has some grid experience, but they are both bodyweight specialists. So the Wild will have upgrades on that side as well. So they were already super talented team. They're gonna get some upgrades just from the NPGL talent coming into the league.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be really exciting, man. We got really, really, really good players coming in, all good teams.
Yeah, and in the South, I mean, I feel like we haven't talked much about the South. The Venom, they're bringing a lot of new, fresh talent, and then everybody else kind of traded around a lot of the Freaks talent. So the Freaks, and they did pick up some of the Freaks talent too, but I think from a pure talent perspective, the Freaks were, probably tops in the league last year, and some of that talent got distributed to other teams in the South. So it's going to be super, super interesting to see how that whole dynamic plays out. But yeah, I'm pumped. It's going to be fun.
Awesome. Well, if you're listening, man, I hope you're ready. Season starts on July 2nd.
Correct.
July 2nd. See you at the UBU Expo. Thanks, Mather.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for hanging out with us. If you want to find out more about the Grid League, you can find us on social media at FL Grid League or on the internet at www.thefgl.com. If you want to find me, you can find me on Instagram at Nick Havish. See you soon.